Jusuf Nurkic is a player that the Phoenix Suns have traded for that's going to be a driving force in terms of looking at this team in a new rendition. He's giving them a completely different feel and flavor in terms of what he brings to the fold offensively, and as well as what he does defensively in terms of his strengths and weaknesses and what all makes him unique as a basketball player. So it's going to be just obviously a condensed version of looking at some of his film from last season in multiple contexts. So let's go ahead and dive into the film. First play here, I think, is going to be something that he brings to the team that's going to be most valued and most effective, and it's going to be his passing in multiple contexts. So as we see him get into the short roll there, we're going to see him with a nice dump off pass. His heart kind of gets lost in the weeds here. Nurk gets the handoff, and we're going to get to his screening in the next segment, but just look at the separation that he gets. He kind of springboards the advantage and the play into an advantage here just off of his screen alone. Mitchell Robinson's up to touch and then going back into drop, but because of the screen that he sets on quickly and detaches him from the ball on Simons, that's going to force a reaction from Robinson, and then because of the reaction from Robinson, that opens him up on a short roll. He's got great hands, great hands. He's going to be able to catch it, get into a dribble, and into his progression. He's going to be able to split the two. And then again, with Josh Hart, after he sets this screen on the backside, kind of getting lost in the weeds, Nurkic knows he's there in the dunker spot just off of how he typically spaces underneath things because he's not traditionally a spacer or a shooter. He knows where his teammate is going to be, doesn't even ever look at him after he gets the pass. And I don't even think the Knicks know that he's there either. And Nurkic is able to get this dump-off pass after attracting attention to two off the short roll. And again, it's an advantage started with his screen, but then his playmaking and his passing and feel is going to be put on display. Next up here, we're going to see a little bit more of the same. Gets into the screen. And just imagine this is obviously Damian Lillard here. Imagine if it's Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, or even potentially Bradley Beal. They get two to the ball here. He slips through. He's going to get into the short roll. Not the best pass, also not the best angle taken out of it, but again, he has great hands, so he's able to get his hand on this. He's able to hold, obviously, the next defender helping the helper, and he's able to just, again, out of the short roll, just know where to get the ball to. Gets it there timely and gets it there with accuracy and pace, and that's a knockdown for Simons and an advantage again. And then here is going to be a unique thing that he's bringing to the fold offensively. So we see they got 5 out spacing here. All 5 players for the Blazers are outside the three-point line, meaning that they're stretching and spacing the defense out as much as it possibly can. That's going to optimize opportunity for cuts as well as dribble drives and all types of things just with the space that they'll be able to navigate with. Imagining that this is Devin Booker with the ball, Kevin Durant's on the left side, as well as Bradley Beal, and then you got Nurk, and let's just say Base Diop, who's spaced above the break there. As they just kind of play in the space that they're being enabled because of the lineup that they have out there and being able to have 5 guys spaced out. You can kind of see as the pass from Simons on the second drive gets out to the corner where Nurkic is. This is something that he's going to be able to just add an abundance of ability and positives to. Spaced in the corner here, he's just going to be able to get into a catch and play connector here and just burning the defensive rotation before they can even get into their rotations here on the second side. And again, it's not just him spacing to be able to shoot. It's just the fact that he can be out there and facilitate. He can obviously play connector. This could have very well and very easily went into a catch into a dribble handoff, a la what the Miami Heat do with Bam Adebayo at times on the second side. And there's a lot of versatility in terms of things you can get into when you have a big like Nurkic on your roster because of his skill set. And we see a little bit of that there. He's also extremely good at hitting cutters, whether that be a backdoor pass on a bounce or if you get into off-ball actions like there's like the zoom action that the Suns like to get into. And let's say it's Miami and he has the ball at the elbow and then they're getting into some screening actions and flowing off of that. When there's switching that's occurring, there's opportunities for cuts if the switches aren't sharp, and he's very good at getting those passes in there. Like I said, whether it's a backdoor or a little bit of live pass over the top, and obviously things on the short roll. And then next we're going to go ahead and look at some of his screening like I mentioned. So we're just going to see, look at the separation that he's getting here for Simons. There's nothing complex about this. He's just really good with his feel. Again, that talk about feel for his playmaking, but his feel for screening. And he does these little things like here where he has a feel to, as they get into some hand back, get, or chase action here, as Simons gets the ball back from Nurkic. Look at the toss back, and then look at the angle that the screen is being set at, and then look at the little extra step that he gives just to get that separation. Again, you get players like Bradley Beal, players like Kevin Durant, players like Devin Booker, even Eric Gordon, opportunities to come off of screens and have this much separation consistently. If they're not putting two to the ball, these are going to be layups for these players. And this is exactly what it is for Simons here. Next rep, we're going to see more of the same here. Again, between Nurkic and Simons, they get into some more get action or hand back or chase action, whichever you want to call it. He receives it back, and then look at Nurkic stepping in. And again, it's not going to get a conversion off of this initial screen, but you can still see the separation. If Simons is stronger and he's able to get through this without losing his dribble, this could have potentially been a layup, especially with Brook Lopez being in his traditional very deep drop. Nonetheless, look at the pace that they get into the next action with. It's nothing. They go into two handbacks here within a matter of 5 to 7 seconds. The first one gets dislodged a little bit. They flow right into the second one. And then look at, again, the angle from Nurkic, the angle of his shoulders, and then the extra little slide that he always gets, like this extra half step, kind of hops in, gets there right before it would become a moving screen. It's sometimes on the borderline. Doesn't get called that much for it to be a worry. But this separation that he gets is going to be such a key cog in everything that the Suns do as far as screening on ball and off ball. Here he's going to free up Simons again, forcing George Hill to navigate the screen. That's one thing that a lot of screeners don't do. Sometimes they're too eager to set the screen, and then they don't force the guys to really navigate it enough. But oftentimes, because he's a wide body, he has good feet, and again, his feel for angles and things like that within the play, he's able to, again, force George Hill to navigate twice, can't get over, and Simons is open for a layup. And then his last rep here, you're going to see it from a different angle, but more the same. It's again between Nurkic and Simons. They get into just an empty corner post up here. He loves the empty corner post ups, whether that be to hit cutters, whether that be to get into some potential split action, or just to get into some empty corner get action, which we're going to see here. And again, it's the angle with his screens after the handbacks. Look at the angle and look at the separation that is going to ultimately get for Simons. Gets into a clean catch. And you can't, even Ben Simmons is a very good defender, especially when he's engaged and locked in. But even more than that, he has length. So the fact that he can't navigate this screen, one, there's contact, two, and he can't get a solid contest up for Simons to really alter his release or even worry about him much. That's just a lot of the little things that Nurkic is going to bring to the fold for the Suns, and just helping keep things afloat and even play and read and react at times late in the clock, or especially in the playoffs when sets break down consistently. And then next we're going to look at some of his finishing. Again, I mentioned his feel and screening and his feel and playmaking. He has some very good feel and touch in terms of operating in the mid-range and the short mid-range once he gets into the paint for finishes, whether that be soft touch floaters or hook shots with either hand. And this is just another example of that. He gets into the short roll. Again, that short roll play for him is going to be huge for the Suns. It's something that wasn't there consistently in the previous rendition, and it's something that he definitely excels at and could potentially flourish at even more on higher volume with the spacing that the Suns will be able to manipulate with consistently. And we see him just here again with solid spacing here from the Blazers. He's able to get to a catch, one dribble, and then a wrong-footed finish over to Kawhi Leonard here on the soft touch floater. Just very impressive. And now while that is something that is impressive from him, something that's not impressive is his inconsistencies with finishing. Again, I mentioned he loves the empty corner post-ups and post-ups in general. The last 2 seasons, however, looking at him specifically around the basket, he was in a 22nd percentile in terms of efficiency around the rim last season in non-garbage time minutes. And the season before that, he was in the 26th percentile for big men. That's not good, especially if you have a player that's getting touches like this on high volume. He's very good with his footwork. He has very good touch and feel again. But at times, he just has these moments where he just kind of smokes layups and just doesn't convert or finish at the rate that you would like for him to. And for context and for reference, DeAndre Ayton last season was around 80% around the rim. And really the last 2 seasons for Ayton, he was around 80%. So a lot of those looks that Ayton gets, that he did get with the Suns, even with the change of scenery, it might benefit Nurkic, but you would just like to see him finish these plays with more consistency. And it's just something that you have to mention in terms of gauging him and looking at him in this new rendition with the Suns. Of course, opportunities will not look the same as they did with the Blazers as they will with the Suns for him, and that could bode in his favor. It just kind of remains to be seen, but it's something to note that he hasn't been as consistent as you would hope for from a big in terms of finishing from two-point range in general, but especially around the rim. He's affected sometimes by length and things of that nature, but I think ultimately he's gonna be a lot cleaner looks for him to finish, and it'll be a lot less self-creation for him with this Suns team. And I think, again, just all of those things combined will definitely help him with the Suns. And then we're going to see him just kind of getting into more post-ups here. That's just him with the Barkley dribble. First of all, after setting the screens, the stagger aways, they end up switching this the Mavericks do, and he ultimately ends up with Dinwiddie on him. So he's able to, rather than needing a pass, again, with his handle and his skill, he can just Barkley dribble himself into post positioning with the live dribble, something that you really need in terms of how teams typically defend in the postseason. So you see him navigate to post positioning for himself here, and now it's processing. Where's the double team coming from? They're not just going to let me go one-on-one against the opposing team's point guard here. So what do? He's going to get good feel in with a couple of dribbles, figure out where the double team's coming from. He peeps it's coming from the top side, the top shoulder. So what does he do? Spin baseline away from it, has good enough touch, and he's able to finish over the top to punish the switch. That's something that this Suns team is going to need consistently, because a lot of teams are going to go to switching variations and switching schemes against them, again, especially in the postseason. And how you make those teams pay, again, outside of the play and just playing within the advantages, finding mismatches, and playing to it. And this is one way that Nurkic is going to be able to do so. Again, just navigating it by himself, Barkley dribbling in the positioning, and then finishing against them post mismatch. And then next we're going to see a little bit more of the same. This time, however, it's not a mismatch. He's going right up against one of the better shot blockers and more lengthy and rangy defenders at the center position in Jared Allen. And again, just talk about his footwork, his touch, and his feel. He's patient, trying to see if the double team is going to come. LeVert's not crossing the help line, so he knows he has the baseline or the front side if he wants to go. Allen kind of teeters a little bit more towards the help line on that second and third dribble in the post. So he's going to go ahead and turn over that right shoulder and banks it in. Just real good touch and feel, and he doesn't take too long in terms of getting into it either. Has good feel, good touch, and just solid processing as well in terms of the things that he brings to the fold on offense. And now just kind of looking at the defensive side, this is where a lot of my attention is going to be for him, because if he can put even just average value in terms of his effectiveness defensively, that's going to help this Suns team a whole lot. And if any coach is going to find it and get it out of him, it should be Frank Vogel. It remains to be seen. Again, there's going to be some things to work with because of his limitations in terms of range and lateral quickness and mobility. But it's going to be, like I said, just something to watch for. And here we can kind of see him in his base, which is drop coverage, kind of getting lost on the reject here. He's jumping towards the screen side. You got to trust your point of attack defender to navigate it before you react to what's going on. And again, he just concedes the paint by being out of position here. And this is not even John Morant or somebody like Darius Garland or Jalen Brunson. It's Luka Doncic. No offense to Luka, but he's not one of the quicker guards. But he's able to even burn Nurkic here before he can even rotate back and get into positioning. And this is just kind of some of the limitations that you get with the big that's not the most mobile in terms of his defensive versatility. Here we're going to see a little bit more of the same, this time against the Suns. He's a little bit higher, not necessarily up to touch, but just kind of flat hedging a little bit here. A little bit of catch. And you see as Devin Booker just navigates around the screen, there's no real screen set for one with DeAndre Ayton. He just kind of flips his hips and gets into the short roll. But Nurkic, again, already having leverage just based off of what his coverage is and how wide he is still beat by Devin Booker around the corner. And Book's able to get into a finish without even a contest. And again, this is not an indictment against Nurkic. It's just kind of identifying one of his weaknesses and seeing how the Suns can potentially cover it up or flip it into a potential positive, something that obviously Frank Vogel and company are going to be tasked with doing. But these are just some of the kind of warts that come with a player like Nurkic. And then last right period, this is going to be same game, this time with Chris Paul towards the end of it in the fourth quarter. Again, he's a lot higher up this time, as you can see here. This is just kind of flat hedge, a little bit of just super duper short drop type defense. And obviously the Suns going with Spain pick and roll here. Because he's up so high and he's out of position so much, Devin Booker, you're going to see, doesn't even have to set the screen. So even if the screen wasn't there, just imagine it's not there. This hesitation from Chris Paul, who we know doesn't put especially at this age, doesn't put the most pressure on the rim. He's even comfortable enough to come off the screen, put a hesitation in, and then turn the corner and get to the basket. That's ultimately going to be a goaltend. But again, just kind of looking at some of the things that Nurkic is going to have to work through, and obviously the Suns are going to have to work with him with as well, figuring out how to take his limitations and neutralize them as much as he possibly can, because teams are going to look to exploit it in multiple ways. And obviously he brings value as a shot blocker, playing off of the ball in terms of not being involved directly in action, getting in the 1 and 2 and 3 steps to help with rim protection. He's solid with that. But this pick and roll defense, and just whenever he's getting switched onto guards out on the perimeter, it's going to be something that the Suns are going to have to parse their way through. It's definitely going to be a work in progress. If they can figure out how to get it done, this team is going to be in solid shape. I have my questions about Nurkic. I don't think they won the trade with DeAndre Ayton in terms of that 1-for-1 swap. However, there are ways that this team can mitigate those weaknesses of Nurkic and find ways to just put him in positions to where, again, his weaknesses aren't going to be as much exploited as we've seen them be in past, especially in playoff settings. So there's going to be a lot to see with Nurkic. He brings a lot of positives. He does have some negatives. And it's just going to be interesting to see how Vogel and company find ways to just keep him in position to be as successful as he possibly can in this new rendition of the Suns.